All right, all right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first YouTube live session. We're super excited to have these series going on. Want to just kick off as we prepare for Restoration 2021 that's coming up in just a short few weeks, but also to like get our mindset right and just chit chat about what it feels like and the things we do to restore ourselves. It's been an interesting past year, but we thank God that things are changing and times are getting better. So that's all very exciting. So yeah, we're just gonna get to it. Just so everyone knows, every single week you can catch us on here every Saturday up until the conference where we'll be talking about the road to restoration. And this week is R, so we'll be talking about how we reset ourselves. So hello again, I'm Jimmy. Uh, I live in Worcester, Massachusetts. It's a nice little town area. Actually, it's a pretty big city. I'm a resident physician here. I love it out here. I love my job. I love the people that I'm working with. And I'm so excited to get to talking about this. And I'll just have each of our wonderful panels here, as you see. We have one more to join us. Um, Say a little bit about themselves. How about we start with you, Faith?
All right, awesome. Hi everyone. My name is Faith Delioni. Let's see. I'm 27. I just recently completed my MBA at Bridgewater State University, so really excited about that. um, and yeah, I attend the Deeper Life Bible Church in Boston/Canton, and yeah, happy to be here, and I'm excited for our Restoration 21. And so yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for being here, Faith. How about Precious? Precious, tell us a little about
Okay.
yourself.
Yeah. I'm Precious Solentire. I'm also in Worcester. I'm a first year college student, and I just survived my first year of college last week or this week. I'm excited to be done with college. So, yeah, that's all for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, first year of college is an interesting transition. So shout out to you for finishing that first step. And Justine, how about you go?
Okay, so I'm Justin. I live in New Hampshire, Durham. So currently I'm a graduate student, a PhD student, and there's just been a whole lot of research and stuff like that. Yeah. So really excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so let's get into the tea. I'm super excited about our conference coming up, Restoration 2021. For those of you that don't know about it, it's June 17th to 20th. And shout out to Corona essentially being gone. Thank God. It's going to be in person, which is really cool. Right in the banner below, you can see how to register for it. So while you're here, grab a popcorn, grab some cookies, grab a meal, grab a snack, grab some tea, whatever it is. Log in, register, and get ready to chat with us. So we came up with this title of restoration because, again, like this past year has been rough for a lot of reasons. It's been tough. People have lost loved ones. People have lost their finances. Some people have lost their homes. Some people lost jobs. Some people lost their health. And I think for people who are going to college, I know Precious, you're just starting college for the first time, and like you don't know what it means to be like on campus yet because you're like, getting classes
Yeah.
through Zoom, and that could be really rough. So in order to get to this point of restoration, trying to like get back all the stuff that we've lost essentially in this past year for so many reasons, we have to kind of reflect, right? And look at where we've come from. How did I get here? In order to think of the things that we need to change to get to the place that we want to be, right? So I guess we can start by asking just like everyone, what does resetting mean to you?
I'll go. I think resetting is emptying yourself and filling it up with something better. Yeah, it's emptying of yourself, and hopefully through restoration, being able to fill it up with more of God's um, power and more closeness to God.
Yeah, for sure. Emptying out, dumping out, gotta make space. I like that song by I think it's by what's his name? It's called Make Room. He sings Make Room. He plays guitar.
I'm not sure.
Wow.
Oh my God. Oh, Jonathan McReynolds. So he
Oh,
has a
yeah,
song that's called like Make Room, and he's just like, I'll make room for you, God. Like I'll make space. Like, I'll get rid of all this stuff. So I like that, like
sure.
emptying out and making room for like things that are actually very vital and important to your next step in life. So yeah, emptying out like that. How about you, Justina Faith?
Uh, yeah, I think I agree with Precious. I also think like resetting is kind of like going back to the basics and starting afresh.
Mm,
I know personally, like resetting is not something I like to do. Like even like personally, like if like I've had to reset, like for example, like my phone and my computer, and it basically just wipes everything clean. And I'm not always like the happiest person when I have to do that. I mean, granted, I could have like stuff saved up in a hard disk somewhere in a cloud, but I still have to start afresh and you know make sure that everything is in the proper place that it was before prior to the reset. So I kind of see resetting it that way, going back to the bases and basically starting from ground zero. Um, so while I necessarily sometimes don't like reset, I know sometimes it can be necessary to be able to move forward and get to the place that you're destined to be. So I don't think
mm.
resetting is ever easy, but I also think it's very necessary. And given the year that everybody had, I think it's very important. So I think this Restoration 21 will be a great opportunity for everybody just to reset and rejuvenate and start on even level playing field for lack of a better term. So yeah.
I definitely like that part where you feel like if you hate it. I mean, I hate when I have to reset my computer too, because first of all,
Yeah.
it tells you that you have to like plug it into an outlet so that it's like actively charging, and then it
Yeah.
like shuts down for a solid maybe like 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, I got work to do. Can you please just
Yeah.
like reset already? But I think that's like
Right.
to extrapolate that, like it makes sense because you're not people who need to reset never have to reset for like like no one ever thinks to reset when things are going Jolly Rancher, right? You
Right.
reset when like things just are like all awry and things don't make sense and like it's like what the heck is going on? I need to like take a step back and reset. So it's never usually in our like easiest chill moments. It's usually in a time where like of strife of like things aren't adding up, things aren't making sense. And like for this past year, it's like we all got flipped into the tornado of like social distancing, wearing masks everywhere we go, and like people dying, loved ones being lost, and just not being able to like see people that you normally see on a regular basis in like a year. So I think like even in this tough period, it's like what you said, it's like it's not always the easiest, but sometimes it's what's necessary for the computer to function at its best possible state afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
How do you just think?
Well, okay, I really agree with all that has been said. There is no time, no better time to, for the human race entirely to, consider maybe an issue that has to do with resetting than this time around. A lot has happened and a lot is still happening. There has been a shift in mindset. There has been a shift in understanding. There has been a redefinition of how things work and how things has been working. There is this a new normal. So all these, culminate to, distortion in what I would say an equilibrium existence of things. So there is a need for, restarting. So that restarting, like the other panelists have said, is I like the what Faith said, the example of rebooting your phone or rebooting your system. That is just all we need right now. So it has to do with starting from the basis. A lot has happened and a lot has been redefined. But when you kind of have that opportunity to to restart, to reboot, you will understand most times some of our devices after the restarting, after the rebooting, they tend to function better than before. So that is what we are really looking forward to. And I mean, like I said, there wouldn't be a better time for us to have an opportunity that we launch us into, restarting a new dimension in life and in all areas of our lives. And this program is really timely.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I like all the points y'all bring up. Yeah, and there's some questions I have about some things you all said, but we'll get into that the nitty-gritty later on. Um, so we've talked a little bit about what like resetting means to like each of us, and I guess specifically as for like getting into this season of like preparing for restoration 2021, but also it's like not only in our spiritual life we kind of resetting, but like the whole world is kind of resetting after this whole COVID. And I think it's like, how do we go back to some sort of normal? What is the normal? Like what's the change from before and now? Like why do we need to reset in this moment? And I think specifically as we're, leading up to restoration, our conference coming up, how can we start asking ourselves like, how can we start preparing our minds for restoration in a reset mindset?
Oh, so I guess I'll go. Yeah, I think personally for me, I feel like the world is trying to get back to normal, and understandably so. But I feel like in this case of resetting, I think we just have to prepare our hearts and minds to be prepared that some things need to change, whether in our lives or in the lives of other people. So, I think getting back to normal, like I feel like we shouldn't be aiming to get back to how things were in the sense that everything, remains the same. I think we can use the time of, resetting to see what works and what didn't work in the past, and then take that knowledge that you've accumulated to make changes, not only for yourself but for other people, whether it be, in your family, in your school, in your community, in your church. So I think I think getting back to normal is obviously great. Like everybody likes normal. Normal is good. Normal is comfortable. But I think normalcy without change is kind of just, you're basically just
Mm-hmm.
going back to where you were before, and that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really accomplish anything. So I think you have to open your heart, open your mind to making changes in your life where necessary, and that's definitely where a reset comes in. Because when you reset, you you start afresh, and you have the ability to embrace change. That way, your new normal will be better than your old normal. So that's pretty much how I see it. Trying to get back to that sense of normalcy, and resetting as well.
That's a good point.
Mhm.
And I think the whole aspect of like normalcy without change, like what's the whole point of resetting, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Precious, you were about to say something.
Yeah. I was gonna say something that kind of contrasted with what Faith said, but when you brought this point up, it made more sense to me than what I was gonna say about like it's going to be hard to go back to normal and with everything that's happened. So I definitely agree, and I also think that because the world is going to change, we also need to figure out how we as Christians fit in, and I think this program by resetting will help us do that.
Yeah, so I would like to add, like Faith said, this program or this era will launch us into something supernatural. But then the new normal, when it comes, if it happens without a change in it, then I don't think it's something to be desired. The new normal is such that will leave us, should is such that should leave us better than how we were before the change. So that's what we are really looking up to, and that's what I believe this gathering, this conference is really gonna usher us into. Now the idea is not just for the new normal without a change. Change is the key thing. Let there be a change that will cause a kind of a total turnaround in the way things has been before for good. Right.
And I like how everyone's talking about this normalcy, a new normal that requires a change. We're kind of redefining what normal is for us. And I guess obviously like we've had this whole era of like COVID and like people's spiritual journeys kind of have been halted in certain ways. Some people have actually thrived in this, but I think even going back like that back analogy of like rebooting your computer and your phone, right? Usually, at least I know for me, I never actually reboot it until my computer's like, oh, we're doing it now. Like it has to happen.
Mm.
Do we have to wait for things to get to its worst before we decide to reset? Or do we recognize that we're in a place that's good but can be better? Like, you know, when the first update pops up, your laptop or your phone lets you know, oh, there's an update to be had. But a lot of us, at least I know for me, I'm just like, all right, I'll do this later. Like, why or if or when do we actually choose to reset?
Well, I don't know if I may go first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So, like for me, there is this common saying that, habit is easy to form but hard to break. And, before you form a habit, it's not something that just happened overnight. It happens over time, right? So when you begin to notice some, lapses, not just uh, both spiritual and career wise, lifestyle, when you begin to notice lapses, the thing is sometimes we humans we tend to ignore a lot, but the signal comes. There's this prompting in your mind that something is really going wrong. Things are not really the way they used to or they ought to. There is need for a change. Just like you mentioned, your device will just give you some pop up, give you some notification that thing there should be a change. But most times, there is this. Sometimes we tend not to ignore it, and before you know it, a lot of things, got to the point of things getting almost unmanageable situation. So, but to me, I think if we once you get to the point of having that prompting in your mind that hey, there is a need for a change, there is a need for a turnaround, it is expected of us to launch into those things that will restore us back to a better or take us back beyond where we are. All right. So the key word there is for us to be sensitive to when there is a need for a change, there is a need for a reset. And at that point, if we take that initiative, take that, of course it's difficult, but if we can take the courage to make the move, I'm telling you, it's going to be better than waiting for a long time when the whole thing has been accumulated with, dust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll also add, like, I think, like, to your question, like, do we have to wait until something goes bad to, like, realize that we need to, reset or make a change? I don't think we have to wait until that moment, but I also think that we're all humans, so I think we're all just naturally inclined not to either notice the signs that stuff needs to change or just ignore them when they come up and just pass them off as nothing. But I think different situations, different challenges kind of illuminate the need for change. And I kind of think that's what this past year has done. Like it's just shone a light on everybody's, whether it's insecurities or, lapses and, judgment, behavior, whatever it is. So I think bad times can be a good thing in a sense where it's kind of like a flashlight being held up against your entire life and all your positives and negatives are kind of being shown. So I think it's never good to wait until it's too late, but I think human nature you know naturally just puts stuff off. But I know personally for me, like the lockdown and that whole period last year taught me a lot about myself and what I do good and what I do not so well. And, definitely a reset, with a program coming up like this, it is necessary for us to reset in that sense that we can figure out what are we good at, what are we not good at, spiritually, what are we excelling at, what are we not excelling at, physically, mentally, even academically. And then once you do that, you can realize that, God is there to help you move along those paths. And even just mentally, like you're able to accomplish way more than you realize. And even through the pandemic, we see examples of people that accomplish way more than they did, before the pandemic because of just how mentally, attacking your problems and actually dealing with them, can cause you to go a long way. So I don't know if I don't know if I answered your question, but I just think that bad times are good in a sense that they illuminate basically where the issue is, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And I think even pushing it more towards the spiritual, because there's a lot of things we need to reset in this life between government, healthcare system, social injustices, not only here in the US, but around the world, as we're seeing. But I think focusing more so on the spiritual aspect, I think that there are some things that we can reset and takes time. And there are some things that we need to reset that's very immediate. And for example, salvation, right? When you choose to follow God, it's not like I'm going to choose over the course of the next few days, like, oh, what am I going to, how am I going to serve God? It's like you choose now, I'm going to serve God. And then you make the steps thereafter to do so. So I think that as we're trying to, at least for me, I know personally, when I go to bed every single night and I pray, I reset my day, especially when I wake up or when I go to bed. I'm like, God, I don't know if I've done anything to offend you, if I did any kind of sin that made you like upset with me, but forgive me. Because you sometimes you never know what you did during the day. Sometimes you realize, sometimes you don't. That's why we always say for our sins, known and unknown, right? Lord, please forgive us. Um, that like that's my reset on a nightly basis, and I think some people need to reset in the sense of they just need to do a complete 180 because they really just haven't been walking with God. And some people, they've been trying to toe the line, which also isn't safe anyway, but also needs to reset our mindsets like, I got to keep God at the center of everything that I do, right? It's like, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things will be added. Matthew 6:33. Like, you got to put God first and then focus on everything else. I don't know how you guys feel about what that means in terms of how you prepare specifically for your spiritual resetting as we enter this period of like our conference coming up in restoration.
I think spiritually, before the program, it's important to like have expectations, and I think it's usually what happens is that there's a program and then people go and there's no expectation, and then they leave and they've got nothing from the program. So I think in terms of reset, know what you want to reset coming to the program, like in what aspects of your life do you need to reset, and then come with like expectations and prayer requests that, oh, this is the aspect that I need God to help me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this question
Um,
from
yeah,
Rose. Oh, go
I,
ahead. Go ahead.
okay. I think I also want to, make some points on that. I've heard it's common. I think also myself, I've been in it before. You go to a program and you are back. How was the program? Oh, it was wonderful. Really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, God is awesome. It was. What did
Yeah.
God do? God is awesome. And, it's just too generic. You cannot really point out exactly what
Yeah.
God did for me in this program. I mean, so then I began to like, consciously make sure that if I'm going for any conference, any spiritual gathering, I should endeavor to have a specific, you know, a need or something I really want God to do. That okay, when I come back, I can always go back to that, look at that. Okay, how has this changed? All right, I can always link a particular event to a particular program. So I think it's high time we began to get more specific with how we relate with God in terms of what we want Him to do and how we want Him to touch our lives. Not to be carried away with the generic thing. God is awesome. I went to the program; it was wonderful. What did He do? It was a wonderful program. I mean, so that's what I want to add to that.
No, for sure. And I think as we're getting to our like 30-minute mark, I do want to highlight a question that came from Rose. It says, what do you do when you need to reset, but you're afraid of what's ahead. How do you still go ahead and do it? And I think that's a really good question, because I think sometimes we're afraid of what's next. We're afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of like a new space that we're taking into. I'll let someone else answer before I give him my chime of what that looks like. What are your thoughts, guys?
I think reset is like as Faith mentioned before, that it is scary, but I think understanding that something better is awaiting you should act as motivation to reset.
Yeah, I also think like fear is definitely like if you know you need to reset in a certain area, but you're afraid of what will come with it or what will be the end result. I do think that's normal, but I think also that fear, a lot of the fear comes from the sense of you're going to be doing it. You feel like you're going to be, you know, working on that particular area or resetting that particular area alone. And if you realize that, you know, God is with you every step of the way, that He's not going to forsake you or leave you, then, you know, the fear, you know, will be mitigated a little bit. It doesn't mean that you won't be afraid. Like, I think, you know, fear is you're afraid because you've never experienced it before. You don't know what's going to happen. And once it happens, you're not afraid anymore. It's like, you know, it's like getting a shot. You're afraid of getting a shot, you know, if you're a kid, but once the shot is over, you're fine. And, you know, sometimes you don't even realize that shot is being administered because you're so afraid of it. So I think it's that the same way. Like, if you know that God is with you and He's holding your hand and He will give you sufficient, the sufficient grace and strength to go through it and make that necessary change, then I think, you know, the fear will be mitigated, and there'll be a sense of calm and a sense of serenity that comes with it. You might still be afraid while doing it, but knowing that God is with you will make it a little less scary. And then once it's done and you realize, you know, that you made this reset in a particular area and it's manifested fruits in your life, you know, then the next time you have to make a reset, it'll be less scary because you have something to fall back onto. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay, just a quick one. Specifically, I really want to be a little bit specific spiritually right now. I know the question is kind of broad. Yeah, but in terms of spiritual, you know, sometimes there's this fear. Okay, okay, you presented salvation to me, and I know the life I live. I really know I need salvation, but I don't understand life after that. I mean, what comes up next? Now some persons, it might really surprise you that some persons, because of the fear of possibility of going back to sin or maybe going back to their old life, they don't want to, you know, start what they cannot accomplish. You know, they have the idea, man, it's useless starting what I know I cannot, you know, continue. But the thing there is that, just like Faith said, it's not just about you, it's about God. And God, who has called you, who has given you the privilege, you know, to be exposed to a circumstance that will reset you, He will also give you that grace you need to carry you through.
For sure, for sure. Thanks, everyone. We'll get to Anita's question, but I think that, like, yeah, change is scary. Change straight up is scary because there's just so many like possibilities and factors out there. They're just like, what next? What this? How am I going to do this? Where's the money going to come from? How am I going to get these grades to get into med school? Or how am I going to, what? And then you remember that, sure, change is scary, but fear is also very hindering. Do you want to stay stagnant or do you want to grow? And when you make up your mindset that I'm going to grow and I have someone that's on my back, AKA God, who is always going to be there as long as you're trusting Him to get you to where He wants you to be. Because remember, we're not carrying ourselves to where we want to be next. Like, God is taking us as long as we are trusting in Him and His plan. So if you know God is going to get you somewhere, don't worry about the hows, the whens, the who's, what's, why's, the house. Like, you just do it. Nike hashtag just do it. Right? Just try God. And I think someone was talking about like being specific about your goals. I would say like, I think it's a common thing now. Like, make a SMART goal. Tell your God, this is my goal in making my reset and getting to my restoration. I want X, Y, and Z. Make them SMART. Be specific. What do you want? How do you want to measure that goal for yourself? Is it truly attainable? And with God, all things are possible. So that should be just an automatic check, right? How is it relevant? What is my timeline that I'm giving myself? Timeline, I want God to do X, Y, and Z for me. Like, just try God with your change and your resetting and your restoration. And like, whew, you will see amazing things happen. Amazing things happen. I'll take our last question from Anita. I think it had popped up on our screen earlier on. How do you reset your other relationships after working with God? That's a good question. And I will just start and say that, like, not every relationship you need to rekindle or reset after your relationship with God, because there's some relationships you actually need to get rid of so that your reset is a true reset and you don't go back to the things you used to do before. But I'll let other people also answer that question to round us up.
Yeah, I think just to borrow Jumi's point, like not all relationships need to continue once you realize, there should be a reset for your relationships. I personally believe that if you need to reset a relationship after working with God, you need to first of all figure out what the purpose of that relationship is. Like, is the purpose of that relationship to uplift you, or is the relationship more on like an acquaintance level? Because a lot of relationships that we think we have aren't actually real relationships. They're just acquaintances with people that we've been dragging along over time. So I think it's good to put not a label, because I think a label gets a bad connotation, but a purpose to the relationship. Like, what purpose is this relationship serving, and what's the rhyme and reason to this relationship? And then once you do that, that will help you to figure out whether the relationship should continue or whether it needs to be severed. And I think, also talking to God about it and asking, does the relationship, edify him? Is there, can God be glorified in that relationship, is also the second step in realizing, what to do with that relationship. So that's kind of how I look at relationships. I know personally there are some relationships that, I've let go just because, not even on like a spiritual thing, but just because like personally it didn't edify me. There was no purpose to it, there was no purpose being served in that relationship. And that's fine. Like cutting a relationship off is not a bad thing, as long as you're upfront about it and you're honest with yourself. But that's how I believe we should approach a relationship when we're thinking about, resetting it.
Yeah, that was a good one from Faith. Yeah, so I'm gonna come from this angle. Let's assume you've made all your preliminaries and the relationship is worth keeping, but it's not really, going well. Now there are two ways to it. Sometimes or most times as humans, we tend to give ourselves the soft landing and push the whole thing to others. So I like looking at relationship, two directional ways. First of all, I would like to look at myself. For instance, let's just assume the relationship is worth keeping, but currently is not in a good shape. Now, I look at myself, are there areas I'm also not contributing to to that relationship that is affecting the relationship? Not just, passing, oh, it's about something is wrong and the other person from the other end is just the person that is messing things up. Sometimes it might not just be. So if you're able to have that mindset or that level of humility to admit that, oh, I need to do some work on myself to make sure this relationship that is worth keeping is kept. So you look at yourself, you adjust where necessary. Also, be bold and be humble enough to also approach the opposite person in that relationship if there are issues to settle and trash out, so that the relationship will be reset and move forward.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining and helping out in our first series of discussion as we're talking about the road to restoration. I guess can we go around and think about maybe a last word of wisdom? I think mine is, as we are looking to reset our whole mindset, as we are preparing to be restored of the things we've lost, to get to the places that we want to go and be, that introspection, hashtag, if you know from our previous conference, you know what that is. But introspection, looking deep within and like thinking about what went wrong, what things went well, what needs to be changed, so that you can truly reflect and think about how you can accurately reset and know that this is not a journey on your own, but that one that you're taking with the help of our one and only JC, God Himself, helping us to get over through whatever humps that it is that we're getting through. Yeah, that's my last words of wisdom. Anyone else?
Okay. Last word from me. I would say, viewers, restoration is around the corner. You just have to get reset to get restored. Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Justine.
I'll say you should come with like open-mindedness and
Hmm.
not kind of bothering God, because my mom told me that God is who you think He is to you. Like if you think He is this big, then to God will be this big to you, and if you think He's bigger, then He will be like that too. So in coming to the program, come with expectations. Be open-minded about what God can do for you at the program.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Love that.
yeah, yeah. And come, and my final word, I guess, come expecting something. Don't just come just to like say, if you like, if someone invites you, don't just come because somebody invited you, or just don't come just because you feel like you have to come. Have an expectation. Like it's good to go places and expect something from that place if they're offering it. So kind of treat this program like a place where your expectations can be met. And even in the area of reset, if you have an expectation that you want a particular aspect of your life to be turned around, or broken down so you can build it back up again, come with that expectation, in this Restoration 2021 program. And I believe that will, I think, I personally believe that your expectations will be met. And I think a lot of us will be surprised of how much God will, pour out His, wisdom and blessings upon us and help with that reset process.
Absolutely. Come expecting, folks. Jacob did not leave that angel until he got what he wanted. Don't leave this conference without something that you're expecting from God in Restoration 2021. Thank you all for joining our chit chat session. Come through next week to hear about what we got for O. Make sure you register. The link is below. Comment, subscribe to our new channel. Shout out to Deeper Life, Neria, Young Adults. We're here. We're out here setting some, we got talks. We got a lot of things to talk about, and we're excited about this page. Just everything in the future for us. Thank you, Precious. Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Justine. Can't wait to see you guys next. Bye, everyone.
Bye.